Or good
Good
now.
morning.
Good now.
I'm like out of practice. Good now. Good whatever it is. It is now. Hey, hi. Happy Tuesday. How's that? Unless it's Australia, it's probably Wednesday or Thursday there. Anyway, so welcome everybody to the Quantum Human Design Energy Report for the week. So, or our weekly evolution report. So, I'm so excited to be here. It's been a pretty intense week. Personally, we had a daughter who got married this past weekend, so fun times, and we are now back in our regular life, which is good because we got a lot of stuff to cover this week. So welcome. I'm just happy to share the front of the stage with Kristen and Jamila and Cindy. And as we sort of set the room and get started for today, I want to just remind you that if you go to our Clubhouse page, KarenCurryParker.club, on that page you can register to receive a written version of our weekly evolution report. You can get access to all kinds of other juicy resources there, and we have a video. I post a video there, which this week I filmed the video outside our cabin where I was hoping to see the bear that comes around, but I didn't see the bear this time. But I kept having fantasies that the bear would show up in the video. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video as well. And of course, a couple of other things we've got going on this starting next week. I just want to let you guys know about this because it's going to be really fun, and I'm super excited about it. Starting next week on Monday on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/quantum human design. And I know that if I get that wrong, Kristen and Jamie and Cindy are going to quickly jump out and correct me. But it doesn't matter. There's a link to it on the Clubhouse page, KarenCurryParker.club. Next week, starting on Monday, we are doing a 7-day self-love challenge with human design. So if you sign up for the challenge, you'll get access to the daily videos that I'm going to be sharing with you, information about your chart. We're going to be talking about the importance of self-love and human design. We're going to be talking about types. We're going to be talking about other aspects in the chart, including money. And I have a special surprise bonus lesson that I'll be doing on the 7th day that will be about the lines of the profiles. On a couple of the days, we're actually going to be doing chartathons. We're going to be doing readings, live mini readings based on your questions. So you'll have a lot of opportunities to get some interaction and some FaceTime with with me and with charts, so that you can see visually other aspects of human design. Not that you need to have the visual piece, because we taught human design for 15 years without Zoom. So I can teach without charts. Anyway, all right, so let's talk about this week. So this week we're going to talk about two important topics: time and timing. And it is a really important conversation because the truth is, as human beings, we cannot control time or timing, but we can influence it. So we're going to talk a little bit today about how do you influence time and timing. And, it's an interesting conversation to have in the context of human design because, to a certain degree, everything about human design, whether you're looking at traditional human design or quantum human design, it's really about aligning with divine timing. That whole theme of waiting, whether you're waiting as a manifestor or an initiator, we call them in quantum human design, you have to wait for the inner alignment, right? Or if you have a defined will center and you're a manifestor type, you have to wait for signs from the material world because that will center is all about materiality and material resources. If you're a generator or a manifesting generator, alchemists and time benders in quantum human design, you have to wait for something to respond to. If you are a projector, we call them orchestrators in quantum human design, you have to wait for the recognition and the invitations. That right cue for timing. And of course, as reflectors, or we call them calibrators in quantum human design, you're always in the flow of time and timing. Your 28-day lunar cycle lets you know when the timing is right for you. And sometimes that means you got to wait a couple of cycles to get into that space of rightness for you, that alignment with right timing. So our type and strategy and authority tell us a lot about how we interface with our knowingness around time and timing, or right timing. So, everything about human design to a certain degree is about learning to trust in right timing, learning to be in alignment with right timing, and I think learning to not push against right timing. So the center that regulates timing and time is the root center. We call it the root center in traditional human design. I like to call it the divine timing center in quantum human design. So this is the center, the energy center that sort of grounds us in the material world. And when the timing is right, it gives us the go signal that's going to either inform the spleen center, the sacral center, or the emotional solar plexus, that it's time to take some kind of action. So if you look at the chart itself and you look at the bottom at the root center and you see where the root center is located and you follow the flow of energy from the root up to the throat center, you'll see that it has to pass through either one of those three centers. And of course, each one of those three centers gives us some kind of a signal, if you will, a pulse, or some kind of a way for us to know, an authority, if you will, some kind of way for us to know that there's something we need to take action on. So before I talk about the next piece, you might want to take notes today. I've got a ton of teaching to do today, because this is an area of the chart that we really, I think, don't use or focus on in a way that allows us to gain more influence over our life experience. So I really want to give you some insights today as to how you can really maximize your chart. And of course, as I'm talking about this, I want to just share with you an important distinction about how I teach human design versus traditional human design. This is a conversation that's really important to me, because I hear a lot, and I think some of it's just language and misinterpretation sometimes of words and how we use words. But in traditional human design, we talk a lot about what is called the not self. Ra used to call this the not self. And the not self is, the person you experience yourself to be when you are still living from your conditioning. So the theory in traditional human design is that you're conditioned by your openness, and your openness and your open centers are easy to be conditioned by, because in our openness we experience this intensity. Wherever you have openness or weight in your chart, you're taking energy in, and you're amplifying it. And because you're experiencing it in this really amplified way, it's easy for you to get confused about who you are and who you are not. And so we call this confusion, if you will, or this conditioned confusion, the not self, where we think we are openness instead of realizing that we are actually our definition. So I have a hard time with this explanation. And part of why I have a hard time with this explanation is because it really, first of all, sort of limits the definition of conditioning. So when we look at the colored bits in the chart, first of all, I want to just say that your colored bits, your definition, can be conditioned. I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations over the 10,000 plus readings that I've done in the last 22 years with people who have definition in their chart, and they've been deeply conditioned away from that definition, that they have been told that how they are. Maybe they're provocative by design and they have the 3955 design. Maybe they have a lot of third line energy, so they're experimenting and exploring. Maybe they have the 3420 and they have to try everything, right? I've had so many clients who have been deeply conditioned away from their definition. They've been told that it's not okay for you to be who you are or how you are. So, we don't just get conditioned by the experience of energy. Our experiences condition us. And if we've had the experience of people especially in our foundational years, telling us it's not okay for us to be who we are, and we learn to hide parts of who we are, then our definition is also being conditioned. We can't limit the definition, the explanation. Boy, vocabulary issues here. We can't limit the explanation of conditioning to just being where we have openness in the chart. The second challenge that I have with this definition of the not self and conditioning is that you really can't cut off your openness and think of it as something that's not you. It's you. It's an essential part of how you experience the world and how you know others. So when we refer to that as the not self, I think we somehow think there's something wrong with our openness and we have to kind of fight and resist it. And, first of all, I think, frankly, that's impossible because it's you. It's part of who you are. And I think that anytime we resist anything in the chart, we create conditioning. And certainly we create a slowing down of potential. And we spend energy resisting something instead of aligning with something. And we put ourselves always at risk for at least the misuse of our energy, if not burnout, and when we push against who we are. So I like to think of openness as like a basket. So every time you experience any of the archetypes in your chart through your open interactions with others, you're basically gathering tiny gems of knowledge about these archetypes, and you're putting these little gems into your basket. And eventually, with enough experience and experiences that you have through your relationship with others, you come to understand these energies because you've seen them and felt them in so many varied ways, in such a variety of different ways, and so intimately through your amplification and your openness over the course of your life that you have a tremendous amount of wisdom about these archetypes and how they operate. So, that openness gives you a deep wisdom about different aspects of the human story and the variety of different ways that we experience those archetypes as a variety of different humans. I have to take a brief segue here and just say, I have the extreme crazy privilege of living with a 12-year-old projector and orchestrator. And she said to me this weekend, we had a lot of time together driving around between different places in Wisconsin. And she said to me, Mom, I know you teach about types, but I just don't really believe in types. I just believe that there are lots of different kinds of people. I'm like, okay, I can get behind that. So anyway, all right, I digress. All right, so the other thing that's really powerful about openness, and this is just something you really need to understand if you have openness in your chart, and you do, we all have openness in our chart. Anything that's white or open on the chart isn't sustainable, meaning you can borrow energy here, but you can consciously use an energy that's open for you for a short burst of time. But any place where you have openness, you can't hold on to that energy or mistakenly identify with them as being yours. So the analogy that I like to use with my students is that your openness is like a screen door. And, if you're a screen door and the wind is blowing through you, and let's say you had consciousness as the screen door, if you were a screen door and you're like, I am the wind, and you identify with the wind, you'd be really mistaken. You're not the wind, you're the screen door. Our openness is very much like that. When we experience whatever energy it is that we're experiencing in our openness, we're being the screen. It's flowing through us. It's coming through us, and it's allowing us to look at it and to collect it and to understand it and to experience it. And sometimes if we choose to, when you have enough awareness, jump into it for a short period of time. But you can't hold on to it. You can't absorb it. You're not a sponge or a screen door. And you can't mistakenly identify with it. So, the example that I always like to use is in my family growing up, my parents, my brother, and my sister all have defined will centers with a defined gate 51, the gate of initiation. I have an open will center, and I do not have the gate 51 defined in my chart. So I know this combination of energies very, very well. I'm always drawn to people who have this energy in their chart. You people are my soulmates, or at least you feel like it to me. I really understand how this energy works intimately because I've experienced it through my openness in lots of different ways and sort of swam in a bath of the energy of it all my childhood. So, by definition, I'm not shocking, right? Which is how sometimes we experience the gate 51. Nor do I have consistent access to willpower. But I do know how to use those energies if I have to, which actually I sometimes do when I have like really resistant clients. who need a little push. That's when I borrow that 51 energy to move them forward. Sometimes they need a very big dose of truth in a kind of initiating sort of a way to get them off the mark that they're sort of stuck on. So this is really the power of openness. It gives you more freedom to use the full spectrum of the human archetypes in the story of who you are. It helps you more deeply understand others, and it gives you a rich appreciation of the entire human story. And of course, you learn about it. You learn about your openness through your relationships with others. Definition, anything that's colored in the chart, is mastered through internal experiences and contemplations. So, obviously, if you have definition, you're going to see these energies impact the world around you because that's what you're radiating out to other people. But they're inside of you. This is energy, your definition, that is sourced within you. And it holds the details of your soul's curriculum in this lifetime. So we master our definition from our inner work. And we get to watch these themes play out in our lives in maturing repetitive cycles as part of the work that we're here to do in the world. So if I was going to sort of synthesize this and keep it as simple as possible, I would say that your openness is what you learn from your relationships, and your definition is what you're here to master and learn about yourself. So the bottom line, we all have all of the chart. And when people tell me, well, I don't have this, I'm like, yeah, you do. If you have it white, you have it in a variety, you experience it in a variety of different ways. If you have it colored in, it's a little bit more consistent and probably more reliable part of your life story. But you have all of it. We all have all of it. So now I'm done with that rabbit hole. This is going to be the rabbit hole show today. We have so many rabbit holes today. All right, let's go back to talking about the root center, the divine timing center. So we all have, as you just learned, we all have a divine timing center. And it is in constant communication with our outer material reality. It's where we are grounded, literally. It's our adrenaline center. It's the root chakra. It's our root center. And it is in constant, I like to call it the cosmic cha-cha-cha with the material world. So when you have an open divine timing center, it can sometimes interpret the outer signals from the world as pressure. So it also can interpret our thinking as pressure. And so most of the pressure we experience when the center is open is around time and timing. So it sounds kind of like this. You might find if you have the center open that you're constantly saying things to yourself like, I don't have enough time. I can't get it done in time. I need this by fill in the date, or else something terrible is going to happen. Or you might find yourself saying, I can't afford to wait. Right? And this is the pressure here that we get with this open, when the center's open. And this pressure causes us to hustle and push against right timing. It also causes us to make never-ending to-do lists that we never get on top of. And, of course, this hustle and this pressure and this pushing against right timing, because this is the center for adrenaline energy, also puts us at risk for adrenal burnout. So a defined divine timing center operates in pulses. So it gives you a pulse that informs either the spleen, the sacral, or the emotional solar plexus that the timing is right to take some kind of an action. Similarly to the open divine timing center, if we desperately want the timing to be right and we take action without the pulse being on, or if our life circumstances don't allow us to follow our pulse because we have externally enforced time conditions, such as you have a job with set work times and specified hours, our society forces us to push against our own inner sense of timing. And again, when we're pushing against that pulse, that right timing, that internal sense of right timing, we're putting ourselves at risk for burnout. So the bottom line on this one is we're all designed to work with divine timing. And pushing against right timing is depleting and exhausting and frankly not healthy. And it certainly doesn't help us to get to where we want to be with our manifesting or making our dreams come true. So, oftentimes, I talk at least a lot about burnout. In fact, I did a TED Talk on burnout, and why, when we're not living true to ourselves, we put ourselves at risk for burnout. And part of what happens is if we're not standing in our own sense of our right place in the world, if we're disconnected from our own value, and when we get disconnected from our own value, we lose our connection to our place in right time, because we don't trust that there is going to be a time for us, right? We don't think we're valuable enough to be supported, to get the resources we need. When we're living in that place and we're consequently pushing against divine timing, we think we know better than source, or we think we can outpace the quantum field, if you want to put it that way, then we really put ourselves at risk for burning ourselves out. So again, the beauty of human design is that it does give us a hack, if you will. I hate that word. I really don't like hack. There's really no easy workaround, even if you're a manifesting generator. But it does give us key insights into how each of us individually, when we live true to our strategy by type, we follow our authority, we learn how to get into harmony with the waiting process, which ultimately brings us into harmony with right timing, divine time, if you will. Now, as I said, you can't control time or timing, but the gates on the Divine Timing Center do give us a code that helps us master what we need to tend to in order to influence time and timing. So, as I said, you can't control time, but you can influence it. I have found in the 22 years that I've been coaching people that the number one reason why we tend to block ourselves when we're working to make a dream a reality is that we fail to follow these really beautiful codes that are built into the Divine Timing Center. And because we're not following those codes, we're not influencing time and timing. And I think most importantly, we're just really not ready for our dream to materialize because we haven't done what we need to do to be in that receptive, prepared state for the timing to be right. So the universe, or the quantum field, or whatever you want to call it, God, source, is so powerfully wise that even if you think you're hiding out from the truth, the universe knows exactly whether you're ready or not. So you might be telling yourself, oh yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm totally ready. But if it's not happening for you, it might mean that you could benefit from an exploration of the codes of the root center, and to look at whether there's something in those codes that you need to pay attention to so that you can increase your readiness and your receptivity to right time and timing. So I do just want to say I did break this down quite extensively on my Instagram page. It's if you go to my Instagram, it's at Karen Curry Parker Official. I did a whole long series of educational posts there about the Divine Timing Center and the codes for each of the gates in the Divine Timing Center. So I will, though, for all intents and purposes, break them down here for you. But this is a very simple overview. There's certainly more depth. You have to go find it. I called it the Root Center Challenge. I did it a couple of months ago, but it's there. And if you want a link to find my Instagram, I don't know, it's not a page, but to find my Instagram, go to, again, my Clubhouse page, KarenCurryParker.club, and you'll see that there's a link there that'll take you to the Instagram. So, all right, so I'm going to go through, starting with the gate 53, all of the different gates on the root center and break down for you the codes that they give us that help us prepare ourselves for the manifestation of our dreams and our intentions and our goals. So we'll start first with the gate 53 because the name of the gate 53 is the gate of starting. So it's a good place to start. So what the gate 53 says to us, because this whole channel, the 5342, is really about getting things done. The gate 53 tells us that to influence time, you have to be sure that you don't have any unfinished business that needs to be tended to first. So for those of you who may be extraordinarily blessed in your capacity to procrastinate, really the bottom line here is you can't procrastinate and put off handling things that you need to handle and still expect for your dream to come true. Because the reality is, if you're putting something off, if there's something you need to do or something you need to take care of, and you haven't taken care of it, you haven't tended to it, whether you realize it or not, it's eating up your energy. You might not pay attention to the energy that it's eating up, but it's eating up your energy. And that energy that you're spending avoiding something or sort of unconsciously putting it off or tending to it in an abstract way, way in the back of your mind, that energy that you're using to not do something is not creating a state of readiness. And the universe knows. You might think that the universe doesn't know that you have back taxes you need to pay or accounting that you need to do. But the reality of it is the universe does know that. And so it's not going to send you, they, it, whatever its pronoun is, it's not going to send you what the next thing is, because it's really giving you an invitation to explore. Hey, don't you need to take care of this first so that you have more energy available for that thing you really, really, really want? So the next gate, the next code, if you will, on the root center, the gate 60, the gate of conservation, says if you want to innovate and create change or have something different happen in your life, you have to be grateful for what you have and for what is working in your life, because you can't change a situation you hate by hating on it. What you can do, or what the code says, is that you've got to find what is working, what you do love about your situation, even if it's completely and ridiculously minuscule. The energy of gratitude and appreciation expands upon your receptivity for more things that make you feel grateful. If you are focusing on how much you hate something, then the universe responds in kind by sending you more things you hate. And so it blocks your creative capacity. Or actually, it's not blocking your creative capacity. You're being very creative when you're hating on things too. You're just not creating what you want. So the next gate, the gate 52, the gate of perspective, says if you want to influence timing, you have to maintain your focus. So this gate reminds us to make sure that we are not getting distracted by shiny object syndrome, and that we're continuing to keep our eyes pointed forward on the fulfillment of our goals. So a really good energy that reminds us to take stock of our habits, our patterns, how we're living, and making sure that our lifestyle is such that it supports us in maintaining our focus. So again, kind of a nice invitation from these codes to make sure that you're not spending too much time browsing on Facebook or the internet instead of working on your book, or making sure that you're not taking phone calls when you're supposed to be focusing on something else. Or in our house right now, the Tour de France is playing pretty much 24/7. That kind of prevents anything happening in our house. So I'm pretty sure no dreams will be manifested until the Tour de France is over, except for, of course, my husband's dreams about who's going to win, and maybe his little fantasies about being a Tour de France rider. But anyway, that's another rabbit hole, which is actually the gate 52 can sometimes be a rabbit hole gate. All right, the gate 19, the next gate on the root center, the gate of attunement. Gate 19 says to influence time and timing, we need friends and family who believe in us and support us, especially on those days when we can't do this for ourselves. So that having people who support you in your dream, having people who can help you have faith, having people who really believe that what you're trying to create is totally possible for you, are really essential, or at least can certainly help expedite time and timing, mostly because they help you maintain your emotional alignment. And so your emotional vibration is more receptive to whatever it is you're seeking to create. The next gate, the gate 39, the gate of recalibration, says that if you want to create what you want in your life, you have to constantly tend to your emotional frequency and be sure that you're holding a state of positive expectation, even when you can't see the evidence of the outcome yet. So basically, the gate 39 says you got to have faith. I won't sing the song. But faith is a really powerful component to influencing timing. If you don't believe it's possible for you, then you're not going to create it, because you're going to create the idea that it's not possible. And the universe will be like, hey, you don't think it's possible? That's fine. Here you go. Not possible, right? That's a potential. But if you believe it's possible and you can hold on to that energy, and it's emotional energy, so you're staying in a state of positive expectancy, or I like to call it a state of delusional confidence, right? If you can hold that energy, then you will be influencing what you create with your life. The gate 41, you'll be influencing time and timing, by the way. The gate 41, the gate of imagination, says we influence timing when we have a vision, a dream of what we want, and we sustain that vision with our passion. Okay, so this is a place where, it's not just visualize, which, a lot of us, we've been trained to visualize. You have to visualize with passion. You have to feel the energy of whatever it is that you're wanting. And if you can't generate passion around it because maybe you're compromising, maybe you're trying to create something because you think it's what I like to call is a Band-Aid manifestation, right? So maybe what you really want to do is take a year off and work on writing a book, but you don't believe that's possible for you. So what you try to manifest instead is money. If I just had, $100,000, I could do that, no problem. And so instead of saying, how can I create the experience of having the time, a year, to work on my book, you instead work on creating the money. You're not really passionate about the money. It's going to slow things down because the universe loves passion. It responds to passion, and it wants you to live from that place of passion. But oftentimes we're taught or we're conditioned that our passion is something we save for later, right? It's something we look at or we indulge ourselves in when we're older and all the other bases have been covered. And, certainly I would at least say in my own personal life experience that it's the passion that creates the compromise, not so much. The gate 58, the gate of joy, we're moving now over to the left-hand side of the root center, says we create faster when we're pursuing a dream that inspires joy in us. Sounds kind of like the other one, doesn't it? It's like passion and joy. That when we do what brings us joy, then we have the drive to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it until we get it perfected, till we've worked out all the kinks and the bugs. We practice, we move ourselves towards mastery, and that mastery in turn engenders upon us greater ease, more alignment with right timing, and more alignment with greater opportunities. The gate 38, the gate of the visionary leader, says that to influence time and timing and to tap into endurance, we have to be pursuing a dream that's truly meaningful. It's got to give us enough inspiration that we're willing to fight through the inevitable challenges ahead, because we know that what we're moving towards is totally worth fighting for. It's worth putting the energy into it. We've assessed it. We see the bigger picture around why we want what we want. And again, the universe responds in kind to that big, meaningful vision of what we're building and what we're creating. The gate 54, the last code here, the gate of divine inspiration, says that to influence time and timing, we have to be following our own unique path given to us through inspiration and in conjunction with our deep relationship with Source. So really, we're designed to follow those dreams and visions that feel destined and divinely guided, right? So we are designed to, and this is an interesting gate. I love this particular gate because it really does suggest that to be ready for right timing, we have to have the foundation laid. This is actually business energy. It's the initiating gate in the business sequence in the chart. It's also the place where dreams start in the manifesting process. Divinely inspired dreams start here. And they start here with action. And sometimes the action that we take isn't things that you would traditionally think of as action. It might simply be the action of holding the energy of the dream in place until the timing is right. Other times it's much more concrete, like doing things like build a website and have products that are available for sale and have your shopping cart set up so that when people go to your website, they can buy stuff, so that when the timing is right, the pathway to taking turning something, a thought, a dream into something of material value can happen. One of my favorite stories that to me is just a really beautiful Gate 54 story, because, as I said, it's all about readiness. This could even be a Gate 41 story too, depending on how you look at it. But I had for years and years, I taught a class called the Prosperity Boot Camp, and I would teach this class, and it was really basically a manifesting class, and it was I was teaching human design at that time, but this was really kind of where a lot of my bread and butter was at that time, and really it was probably just barely bread and butter, and beyond, not much beyond bread and butter. But I had this student one time who really, 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 really wanted to live in Hawaii, and just, didn't have the means financially, didn't know what to do and how to get there. But, he decided that he was going to fully occupy the information field in the quantum level that was him living in Hawaii. So every Sunday he had this routine that he cultivated where he would get up and he would have a nice breakfast. He would pack his suitcase as if he was going to Hawaii. He would go to the airport, park his car, and go stand in line at the ticket counter as if he was going to Hawaii. And, obviously never checked in for the flight, but, went through the motions of just really fully embodying the energy of, I'm going to Hawaii, right? So he did this for a couple of months and got an invitation from a friend of his who lived in Hawaii to come stay in Hawaii and house sit for a couple of months. So he went to Hawaii, he house sat for his friend. And of course, while he was there, he met all kinds of other new people, made all kinds of other new connections. And at the end of his house sitting gig, he was actually able to get a different job in Hawaii and eventually permanently moved to Hawaii, where he still lives today. So that is, to me, a big piece of that 54 energy of really recognizing this isn't just an idea that I have, but this is my destiny, my course. It's divinely inspired. It's important enough to me that I'm going to build the energetic scaffolding, if you will, for the manifestation of this. And I'm going to follow through with the actions on a regular basis to keep holding that scaffolding in place until the timing is right and the opportunity actually pops, if you will. So as you can see, if you're going to summarize basically all of these gates, what you really see is that we are kind of designed, if we're going to create something, we're designed to have a clean slate. We're designed to clear off any old lingering projects that are quietly chewing up our energy in the background, and to pursue those dreams that cause us to live life with relentless passion, inspiration, joy, and vision. And when we fail to take care of these things, when we procrastinate, if we force ourselves to try to create something we don't really want, or we compromise our right path by pursuing a meh kind of life, if you will, we get stuck. And time slows down. And we start to feel like we're living in cosmic goo, and we can't really get traction on momentum. So last week, the sun transited the 39, this place of needing to connect more deeply with our faith. I think we're actually still in this until tomorrow. So we're still, actually, sun is still in the gate 39, earth is in the gate 38. So we're exploring two codes of the root center right now. And both of those codes are, do you have the faith? Do you believe in what it is that you're wanting to create? And is what you're trying to create big enough to inspire you and call you forward, even when it gets challenging? Tomorrow, the sun moves to the gate 53. The gate 53, remember, this is a gate of starting. It gives us an invitation to turn things around by encouraging us to explore if there's any loose threads or unfinished business we need to handle in order to have a clear path to creating what we truly want. So the question I would encourage you to contemplate is, are there any old projects, situations, commitments, etc., that you need to finish up so that you can have more energy and space available for receiving what you truly want? That's our job this week. That's our job. That'll be our job until Tuesday, when we go back up to the throat center again. So as sun moves to a throat gate. the earth this week, and of course, earth is always what grounds us. It's kind of what we need to have in place so that we can more fully express the theme that the sun is inviting us to explore. So the earth grounds us in the gate 54, another root center code. This is the gate of divine inspiration. And so, it gives us a deep longing for a connection with source and consequently with our right path. This connection promises to fuel us. It gives us energy to be able to do those things we've been avoiding and procrastinating. That's our gate 53 part, that are taking so much of our headspace and our energy. So when we connect to source and we're in that space of being really connected to our right place, our divine place, that place is big enough and powerful enough that it gives us that extra oomph, if you will, that extra inspiration to take care of the things we need to take care of so that we can have a clean slate, so that we can have a strong foundation and be receptive to the next right step, the next right sense of timing and evolution. So again, it just gives us this energy to help us do those things we've been avoiding and procrastinating. And, the question to explore with this energy is there something that you long for? Is there something that is so profoundly true to your authentic self that you're willing to do whatever it takes to make it a part of your material world? So this 54 energy, this earth grounding energy this week really asks us, how honest are you willing to get about what you want? How honest are you willing to be with yourself around what you really want? Do you want the year off to right, or do you really want the money? And if you're compromising or you're trying to figure out the how, and you're not being relentlessly authentic with your asking or your preparation with yourself, right? If you're not being really honest with what you know is your destiny and your path, and you're avoiding it because you think it's not possible, or you're going to fail, or whatever the reason might be, what needs to be healed for you to be honest with yourself? What do you need to let go of for you to be honest with yourself so you can connect so profoundly with that authentic place, that authentic path, and your commitment to that authentic path is so aligned and relentless, you're willing to do whatever it takes, clean up whatever mess needs to be cleaned up, let go of whatever needs to be let go of, take whatever next right step you need to take to maintain and sustain the energy. Are you willing, what do you need to do to create the readiness for you to draw on that momentum? So big questions this week, big questions that will help you influence time and timing. And also, if you're honest with yourself, big questions that will really help you create a darn good life that's really worthy of you. So I hope this gave you some good insights as to what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. There's a lot of waiting that we're doing right now, but it's active waiting. It's kind of like, I always like to use garden analogies because I'm so crazy in love with my garden. And I always see the parallels between the human design creative quarters that we're in and gardening. So we're in the creative quarter of the template, meaning we're putting words to our dreams, which is such a vital thing for us to be doing until the beginning of October. And, and it's a weird phase in the creative process. We want to jump ahead. We want to jump ahead to the harvest season, right? We want to go out into the garden and harvest the eggplants and harvest the tomatoes and harvest the whatever we're going to harvest, right? And, at this time of year in the garden, there's very little to harvest. I think I have a couple of stalks of broccoli. Definitely the chard is good to go. Yesterday, I literally picked my first tomato and ate it. I've got kale. But all the other stuff, like the beans and the corn and the squash and the watermelon and the cantaloupes and the cucumbers, they're just barely getting started. They're just starting to shoot off their runners. They're just starting to flower. And there's an interesting breath holding that comes in this cycle of waiting for the garden to be ready for harvest. You don't know what's going to happen, right? You don't know. Is it going to be too dry? Are we going to get some weird? Last year, all the squash got some kind of weird rot. Is the corn going to make it? That's always the question. Is the corn going to make it? And, there's a lot of waiting, but it's an act of waiting. I'm going out to the garden every day and talking to the plants and plucking the weeds, and I'm constantly combating the chipmunks who have figured out a way to burrow into my raised beds, and I have to fill in their holes every morning and tell them, no way, man, get out of my garden, right? There's a sort of an intense waiting that happens in that process. Or it's like being pregnant too, right? There's a lot of waiting in the pregnant process, but eventually you do give birth. Eventually you do hopefully harvest. And the more present you are to the process of waiting, and waiting actively, waiting with intention, waiting with the intention of being in alignment with what it is you're hoping to create, the more you can build into the waiting process that energy building cycle, that alignment piece, that holding that vibrational frequency of what it is you're wanting. The more you can do that, the more you're going to influence time and timing. And I think in conjunction with that, the better the better your outcome is going to be. The more synchronous it'll be, the more magical it'll be, the more it'll blow your mind, because it'll show up in a way that you totally didn't anticipate. And you'll be completely open to the magic of the universe responding in kind to the energy that you're offering. So that's it. That's what I got for you this week. Boy, that was a long one. So I hope you all got something out of that. And I'll take a couple of questions if any of you want to raise your hand and hop up there.
I'm hopping up here in lieu of someone else because I actually had a question get posted. So Sharon was asking, said, love Karen sharing this morning, threw me into the contemplation. Does the pulse off the root center allow the same-ish pressures as the undefined root? So I guess, when your root is pulsed off, do you feel the same kind or type of pressures as when with an undefined root?
That's a question I get a lot, because I do definitely think that maybe part of the problem we have with the human story is just a vocabulary problem. I wouldn't say that it's the same kind of pressure as an open root. That open root can be just frenetic, like gotta do. That being said, I would certainly say it's still pressure. It's just not going to be the same kind of pressure. It's just a different expression of pressure. So if pressure was a diamond, which is a good analogy, right? It would have a couple of different facets. So open root pressure is one facet, and that's that pressure to get things done so you can be free. And the defined root, working against the pulse, is also going to have pressure, but it's you're going to be pushing against yourself. And that can feel like a different kind of pressure, but it's still probably, I would define it as pressure. So, hi, Katerina. Feel like we've been hanging out today already.
Yeah, we have, which is funny that you're talking about divine timing, because the timing of me hopping onto your calls feels a bit synchronistic and divine. But essentially, I'm going to cheekily, link my previous question to you about manifesting in the other conversation with everything that we've spoken about now. So essentially, I'm taking what you're saying as, even if you don't necessarily have a conscious goal or vision or something like in particular detail that you're working towards, then all of these gates and channels, essentially, if you connect to and embody those, you're still influencing time, but just with an openness to the outcome. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. So just because not everybody's had the privilege of hanging out with you this morning, as I have, Katerina, you had asked a question about manifesting, and does manifesting have to be specifically targeted towards creating a specific thing, or can it just be more of a loose, like being in the flow kind of a thing? Is that a good way of paraphrasing that, Katerina?
Yeah, I think that's a great way of, like, I don't necessarily have an intention, like I don't have a business goal or weight goal or location goal. It's kind of like that, as opposed to universe, life, show me where you want me to go, show me what my highest good is.
I love that. And that to me is actually the embodiment of human design, that, I will say that for me personally, at this stage of my evolution with my design, my prayer every morning is, please show me where I can be of the highest service to the world. Show me where you need me to be and use me, right? So that, and I just really don't do specific stuff anymore. But that being said, I do hold the energy of imagination and excitement. So I have a dream book that I use. And in the dream book, I have pictures of things that delight me. And actually, probably about the first 10 pages are all pictures of my children and my grandchildren and my parents and my family, other family members, and different events from different events that we've been at together that really just warm my heart and make me feel just in love with my family. And then I have pictures of things like I feel like intuitively I want to be living somewhere more rural than where I live right now. Right now I live right smack dab in the middle of the city. I have a sense of wanting to see the sunrise as part of my daily experience, and I don't have that where I live here right now. So, but other than that, I don't really have anything specific. I'm not trying to manifest a specific farm or a specific mountain or a specific place. In fact, I would say that I have learned as a generator type, because I'm a manifesting generator, time bender, we say in quantum human design, that, I can have all kinds of ideas about what I think I want, and then something shows up and my sacral's like, and I'm on it, even though it might be 180 degrees different than what I thought I was manifesting, if you will. My husband is a really great example of this. When I got divorced, after I dated a lot of people that taught me a lot of great lessons after my divorce, I got really serious about creating a partnership and sat down and made this whole long list of all the traits and qualities that I wanted in my soulmate, right? And he was going to be metaphysical and all this other stuff. And then I met my husband, and several years and a child and an amazing, we have 8 children between the two of us, putting together this amazing family who we just love and adore to no end. One day I was cleaning out my office and I found my soulmate list, right? I'm going down the list and thinking about my husband, and I'm like, nope. He didn't fill any of the requirements. And yet I can't imagine anything better than this relationship that I'm in. I mean, it is the fulfillment of my heart and my soul. So, I think that the idea of really embodying a frequency of authentic alignment with who you truly are and loving yourself wildly and valuing yourself wildly, knowing your right place in the cosmos, knowing that you are a vital, irreplaceable part of the cosmic plan, and really embodying that energy creates a force field of support around you, and the universe will reach down and very expeditiously, I believe, facilitate for you any experience you need to deepen that connection with your authentic self. And you don't really have to be specific, but you do, or you will benefit from consciously tending to your emotional frequency, to making sure that you are holding an energy of positive expectation or faith in your support, and really, having that connection with that energy be the focus of your manifestation practice, if you will. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was great. And so do you think, in your example, how you said that you have like photos and stuff of your family and all of these things that make you feel good, I guess you could say that that's part of your own emotional maintenance, right? Because I kind of have a similar thing of like I'm currently in London, but I'm from Melbourne, Australia, and I have like photos of my family in my room and stuff like that. But lately, I've been like really allowing myself to do things even in my imagination. Like I have a very active I don't know, just very profound imagination. So like I can literally sit for hours just in my own imagination with my eyes closed and just go on this really crazy, amazing, wild adventure. And the whole time I feel so great with it. And previously, when I've done stuff like that, I kind of judged myself and thought that, oh, this is such a waste of time, or I need to do something with this, which is part of a question that I asked you earlier. But now I'm starting to realize that actually it really doesn't matter. Like I kind of feel like just engaging in my imagination, just engaging in my creativity, just engaging in, looking at photos of my family or whatever it is that makes me feel good essentially is putting me into that higher space so that synchronicities, serendipitous moments, divine timing, like all those things can kind of just happen on their own. Because also, similarly to you, I'm London to me is just such a hectic city to live in, and I think especially I'm a projector, so I just feel like this city drains the life out of me. And the last probably month or so, I've been really feeling like I want to go somewhere more rural, like you said, and be closer to water and stuff like that. So I feel like that's maybe, I don't know if it's me tapping into something that my intuition and my higher self knows to be of goodness for me, or if it's something that I'm trying to manifest. But I think it's more something I'm tapping into as opposed to a deliberate, intentional creation. Like my intuition knows what's good for itself. And so now I'm getting these inklings of things, kind of like how you said you were craving the tonic water when you got sick earlier in the other conversation. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit here, but I'm guessing I'm feeling like all of these things are kind of the same thing of as long as you the activity itself doesn't matter, so long as you're doing the emotional management, you're elevating your state, you're remaining expansive and openness and open, then essentially the universe and life can guide you where you want to go. Is that correct?
I completely agree with all of that. And I think for you, especially because your son is in the, your conscious son is the gate 41, the gate of imagination, that you living in your imagination is in alignment with your authentic self, in conjunction with also being a way for you to stimulate a frequency of energy that keeps you in that state of anticipation and positive expectancy. So I would say just keep doing what you're doing, because I think you got it right. And I, and I think it's a different way of creating. I think it takes the process of manifesting, and there's, I think the process of manifesting, the way we're taught through the process of deliberate creation and goal setting and vision boards and all that stuff, I think it absolutely works. So I'm not saying it doesn't work. But it actually, I think, slows things down when we're super hyper specific, because what we're basically saying to the universe is, here's this big giant funnel. You could deliver any permutation of what it is that I'm wanting, but I'm telling the universe, I want it through this little teeny tiny hole. It has to be just this thing specifically. And I think when we stay in the energy of, hey, I'm trusting in my enoughness, I'm trusting in my support, I know that I'm here for a reason, and it's precious and irreplaceable, and I'm going to just really be in the creative expansiveness of that, and I'm going to trust that whatever shows up is going to, and my inner authority with my human design is going to tell me what's the next right step. And then when I stay in that space, then we're telling the universe, here's the funnel. It has a big giant hole, so you can deliver whatever you want with all the magic that you can co-opt, with all the synchronicity and cosmic entanglements and entangled hierarchies. You can bring all of that to me in whatever way you want, and I trust that it's going to be ridiculously perfect and probably way bigger and better than what I could have anticipated with the limitations of my human mind.
Wow, Karen, that was really cool, but the universe is also giving you the gentle ding right now.
All right, so with that being said, that is the end of our show for today. But just again, quick reminder, go to our Clubhouse page, KarenCurryParker.club, where you can get a written version of our report for today, which you might want because we covered a lot of ground. You also can have, there's also a nice video there that'll go through some of the information for this week. And don't forget to sign up for our 7-day Self-Love by Design challenge that starts next Monday on Facebook. And you all have a really great week. I hope you start something amazing this week. Thank you, Kristen, Jamie, Cindy, for running the room and holding it all together for me. And we'll talk to you next Monday at our regular time, 9 a.m. Central on Monday, and we will go through the Quantum Human Design Weekly Energy Report for next week and see where we end up next week. So you guys have a great week. Bye-bye.